Hi, my name is Laura Joseph, and I am with Healing with Spirit, based in Hingham, Massachusetts. I provide spiritually based, integrative, holistic health since 2006. I am here today to talk to you about some energy updates. I figured it was easier to do with a video and to bring those to you with energy updates and some numerology and all these things happening on Earth Day with the new moon on a 444 day with 4 days of electrical disturbances that affected the Earth that might also be affecting you, and what it all means, okay? Just to give you a little feedback on me, I've been a healer, a psychic medium, an advocate, holistic health practitioner, Shihan, and end-of-life care specialist, trauma and wellness expert. And I tend to be known as the bridge between the healthcare system and what we consider maybe the woo-woo. And so I'm here to talk to you about what has been happening, especially the last 4 or 5 days. So if we look at the numerology, so here we go. Okay, so we've got all this stuff going on. Let's just go there. How do we move forward? So that seems to be a theme that a lot of us have been worried about, is how do we move forward, especially with this quarantine? So one of the things that we're going to look into is the rest of the energetic components to help us better understand what we're experiencing, okay? So if we go back just to summarize, and if you wanted to know more, I highly recommend you check out my blog on my website, which has the details of a lot of what I'm talking about in the blog section, including the 2020 forecast, including the forecast I did for COVID. There's videos and there's blogs all in the blog section. I highly recommend you go there for that specific information. So just to summarize, we look at the numbers 4/22/2020, okay? If we break it down, it's a 4th month. The 22 equals a 4 and a 4 year. So it's like a triple whammy, 444. And so we look at 4. The general theme that's been playing out with the number 4 is it's a work year. Not only is it a work year, it's a hard work year. There is no escaping this. This is about our spiritual work. There's a lot of things that are surfacing from the past, including, basically a lot of us driven with that whole ego colonized mindset that has been stretching for more of a millennia. And this idea that we can spiritually bypass or escape our way through existence has pretty much expired, okay? So I'm not going to go into like what spiritually bypassing is and all that, because that's a whole nother take, but there are videos on my website. If you go to my forecast for 2020, there is a video in there that talks about spiritually bypassing, because that is a theme that is playing out. So the idea of spiritual bypassing is not acceptable anymore. This is a time for us to basically face our shit, face the stuff that's in our shadows, but also the 4 is bringing us the element of focus, inclusivity, and also being stewards of Mother Earth. So being Earth Day is a good time to be looking at how are we uniting with our Great Mother. When we look at the number 22 that's in today's date, it's considered what we call a master number. So this is like a big amplification of this. This is bringing in balance and the power to achieve what maybe we may think is impossible. So think of like Audrey Hepburn's, the word impossible means I'm possible. So it's about going within. It's not trying to look for external solutions to internal problems. This is a high vibration number, but there's also a caution. This also can mean, and I know I've been feeling this too, is the idea of, are we putting self-imposed pressures on ourselves? Now, if we're talking biblical, the association with 22 also can mean like disorganization, chaos, and even disorder. So when we break down the date again, 4/22/20, we usually add up all the numbers together, and it comes to 12. This makes it a karmic number. This is how I see it. I don't care what everybody else says it out there. This is how I see it. I see it also as a karmic number. which is bringing up a lot surrounding on karmic debt. I'm not going to go into what karmic debt is. Again, I have a blog on there at the end of January that talks about this, the karmic debt that we're seeing that's surfacing. Some of us may have sensed things in the past couple weeks that may have surfaced within you in the past weeks that may be tied to some karmic issues that might need some resolve. So the 22 is calling us into withdrawing into our internal states, which is what this quarantine is about, right? It's about cocooning. It's about liquefying the old identity, the old belief systems, and being able to birth anew. So this is the opportunity to basically wrap up our shit. Let's get the shit going, and so we can forge something new. This is synonymous to, if you're familiar with tarot, the hangman in tarot is the 12th card in tarot. So this is about sacrifice. So if you're sacrificing yourself, stop doing it. If there's an inner conflict within you, this is about transcending that inner conflict so that you can realize your true power. So this is about resolving some of those things, healing it, befriending it. This is about, again, that's that shadow work aspect. The 2 within this number is about balance. It's about duality, cooperation, partnership. Think of like yin yang. Instead of changing my language, instead of saying masculine, feminine, we're going to say penetrative and receptive, and also the mutual nature of life. When we look at the 1 in the 12 number, because this is also what influences the 12, we think of like high energy. We think of new beginnings. We think of the magician and tarot, which basically is showing that you have all the tools. Now you're going to learn how to use those tools. And it's also about independence. So now when we add the 12 together, because in numerology, we break it down until you come to a single digit. So today is really a 3 day. So when you think of 3, you're thinking of communication, you think of like the Holy Trinity, you think of like the pyramid, you think of past, present, future. The concept of past, present, future was actually a theme that played out very strongly in 2019 that I also talked about in my 2020 blog about the summary of what happened in 2019. It was a thing that surfaced. So whether or not it's like generational stuff, karmic stuff, personal stuff, past life stuff, whatever it is, a lot of it's merging into the present moment, okay? So a lot of the stuff we're experiencing may not even be our own. It might be our ancestor stuff, or it might be family lineage stuff that we might be feeling and experiencing that we need to transcend. The other aspects that the 2020 forecast, since it's a 4-year, brings into is addressing and understanding how maybe space weather might be affecting us as a planet, all life on the planet, and us as human beings, the social justice action piece, the spiritual growth, the idea of inclusivity, addressing shadows within and clearing out centuries of shit of oppression, and being better stewards to our great Mother Earth, returning to the sacred, the collective sacred duty. This is part of our responsibility, and why not have it be a better day if you haven't been doing it, then just start on Earth Day, today, okay? The COVID video that I did on 4/4 that you can also find on my blog talks about the collective denial, the cocooning, and what does that all mean? Trusting our instincts, it seems to be a theme that goes out, and what does that all mean? The emotional maturity, what does that mean? And the new opportunities. So the 4 days now of electrical disturbances that we've been experiencing. Now we had Saturday and Sunday, we had 2 days of intense, what we call the Schumann's resonance. So it's not that the hertz went up, but it was the amplitude and the power of it went up. And then Monday and Tuesday, we had what's called CMEs that impacted the earth. And for those of you who've been following me, you might hear me say green light, yellow light, red light. So it was in the red zone, okay? This was like, holy cow. So it was CMEs, which stands for coronal mass ejections that typically come from the sun, okay? Since 2015, I have began diving into this whole phenomena of space weather and solar forcing and the Earth's electrical circuits, because as somebody who was diagnosed with complex PTSD, I was witnessing things back then. Again, we had immense solar flares that was triggering me, that all my doctors and everybody else couldn't figure this, and everything is coming out normal. I knew there was something affecting me. And so understanding and learning how all these things were affecting me as a human being, both being an empath and intuitive, but also somebody that suffered from PTSD. So I began understanding these and how this was affecting, and there is science that shows the effects on the health and bioenergy. A lot of it comes out of Europe, and a lot of it was studied with astronauts and pilots. So I began researching, and what I realized that these events, both the effects of the Schumann's resonance and whether it's space weather or anything that affects the Earth's electrical grid that creates what we call geomagnetic storms, can affect us, especially if you're predisposed to like anxiety, depression, sleep, PTSD, cardiac conditions. Those type of things tend to be more susceptible to feeling the effects. To find out that, guess what? This is a real phenomena. So now the Schumann's resonance is what we call, if you're not familiar with it, it's the natural and constant frequency of the Earth since basically the beginning of time. There's some science now that's more recent that is showing that the Schumann's resonance might be actually the particle of life that is threaded through plants, through insects, through water, through all of it. It might be actually the secret to the secret of life in general, but this is all new research. So the frequency of the Earth is 7.83 hertz, and it's the same frequency that you will find that they have found basically in the 1930s in the brain waves. So yes, we actually can generate that frequency as well. But since 2014, there has been noticing in the science community shifts in the Schumann's resonance that basically they can't explain. They don't know if it's man-made from cell phones, if it's just the rise in consciousness, if it's just a shift in the Earth, if it's space weather, whatever it might be, because all these things can affect it. But here's what happened Saturday and Sunday. It shot up, apparently to the amplitude and power that broke records. All right. So this is something that, again, science can't explain. Some of the symptoms, if you're susceptible, might be things of fatigue, like you can't get out of your way, a sense of immobility, headaches, gastric upsets, ringing in the ears, headaches, to maybe even feeling like you got a buzz. And when we look at now this, that's pretty much how the Schumann's resonance affects. Now the CMEs, well, actually for me, what I was expecting, I should say, or experiencing, was I was experiencing pain in my tooth that was shooting and radiating up into my head, and I broke out in a full body, almost a full body rash on my arms, on my chest, and in my stomach. And when I finally connected that maybe Schumann's resonance, something might be happening, when I connected with the tone, literally within seconds after dealing with it for hours, kicked in and it went away. So I knew that was my sensitivity to the Schumann's resonance. The CMEs that we experienced both Monday into Tuesday, this triggered a lot of geomagnetic storms in the Earth. As I said, some might call these affecting like the ascension symptoms. Here's the thing, from the science community, they don't know because this was not on the forecast. There wasn't any space weather or stuff that was happening on the sun that would have put a forecast or a warning out there for a CME to be hitting the Earth. So this was completely unprecedented. What the science community is saying is that there may have been a slow release from a coronal mass ejection from the sun that was released from the sun on April 15th that may have finally reached the Earth, but not directly, like a side swipe. So if you think like a car accident, it's like a side swipe. Not like a direct hit, but a side hit. The symptoms that you might have experienced with this might be like sudden increase in anxiety or PTSD or stress-like symptoms. Some were actually reporting Monday into Tuesday, all of a sudden an overwhelming like doom and gloom or sudden amount of sadness and mourning and weight and depression. Others might feel amped up, heart palpitations. There were people reporting cardiac episodes of like atrial fibrillation and things like that. That can also be attributed to when these go into a zone that they call a red zone, which can trigger a health alert. Now, the health alert was issued last week, but somehow it didn't affect until this week. So this is why the science community isn't always on board and really understands this. So I'm not really sure if I'm buying the science community's aspect, saying that this was a coronal mass ejection that may have hit the Earth from a week ago. What I am questioning is something that happened on the Earth's electrical grid on Saturday into Sunday that shut up the Schumann's resonance, which affects the Earth's magnetic field and the Earth's electrical circuits, that may have been tied to the sun's magnetic field. So some of the science is supporting, there's something that the science can understand, which is the pull between the sun and the earth. So that's something that we don't know. But what I do know is, like for me, like Monday, my symptoms were I could not get up in the morning. I really struggled really hard. Usually I have a typical afternoon crash between 2 and 4. I didn't this time. I actually got really productive suddenly late afternoon, and I also got heart palpitations. So that came in as a wave on Monday. If you're, depending on where you are, will determine when on Monday for you. We also had like a boomerang effect, not as intense, that came through yesterday. Now we combine all of this with a new moon on a day that is affected by the Earth Day. Sorry, because today's Earth Day. Now forget that this is 50th anniversary. This is a day that is celebrated. So, we look at 5 now, numbers, 50th, 5 and 0, new opportunity transition. Here's an opportunity to shift the grid and get back where we lost a lot of protections on the environment, clean water and clean air. Those are some of the things that resulted as a result of Earth Day. So these are some of the things that you want to think about with all the energies moving in. Now, when we amp it with a very disturbing new moon energy, the new moon is really going to kind of kick you in the ass. This is like a sudden expected change that you might be feeling. You might even feel the nudge to be impulsive, but if you're being impulsive, make sure that it's very important that you are responsible with the energy that you put out. Not go out and protest, gather in large groups, unsafe, unrestricted, like, it's about me. That is not going to work, because the new moon energies are also going to say there's consequences to that if you do that. So there's the caution. There's the impulsivity to be cautious about how you use this. But typically a new moon is about the new initiatives. It's about a fresh start. So my question to you is, what do you want to envision for yourself for the next 28 days? What do you want to bring in? What do you want to call into your life? So this is where you want to question. If things have been surfacing, like questioning your old habits, your belief systems, this is the kind of newness that you want to bring in. Not like me, right? The impulsivity aspect. There is a rebellion aspect. But it's about routines. It's about breaking the old mold, but with you, not with what everybody else is doing. Okay? So this is about being responsible and addressing some of the things that might be in your shadows. How does the next 28 days look for you in looking with what the 4 is really amplifying today, with taking personal responsibility, with addressing the stuff that's in the shadows, with doing the deep, hard, difficult inner spiritual work? What does that look like for you? So again, when we look at like Earth Day, just to kind of sum it up and tie it all together, we've got a 50th anniversary. This is about reminding us how we can be better stewards to all living things, not just what's in it for me. The quarantine, here are the effects with the quarantine that are showing us. It's look at how the rivers are becoming cleaner in the cities, that sea life is returning into these canals. The pollution levels are significantly reduced, like visibly, noticeably reduced. Okay, you don't need to go, oh, here's a meter. No, it's visibly reduced. How wildlife is returning to areas to nest that haven't been there for years, if not decades. How we are being given a chance here. How are we really listening to these calls that our great mother is whistling to us and calling us in to pay attention. The new moon is amping up all this stuff in our ego. Here's the kicker. It's amping it up in the ego and nudging aspects of impulsivity. But it's a time to be used to create something new, to question those old habits, to question those old belief systems, to do that deep inner work. So today's date is 444, which then equals 12, which then equals 3. On a 4-month and a 4-year, which is about work, that inner work. It's about clearing out that shit in our shadows that we keep running away from. It's about ways we can become better stewards to our Mother Earth, and emotional maturity. The 4 electrical disturbances that we had that are amplifying this 4 theme, the 4 numerology, with the Schumann's resonance and the CMEs and the solar windstorm. So that's showing us what needs to be healed, what needs to be addressed, highlighted, or integrated into our systems. It also impacts the human blueprints on the Earth's electrical circuits. Again, on Earth Day, right? Four in a row right before Earth Day. So when we look at the rest of the numbers, it's a 3. So this is where past, present, and future is continuing to collide. And what does that look like? What is showing up for you? What needs to be done? How can you be the piece to the puzzle that is desperately being called to you for the whole collective pieces of the puzzle? To not worry about what somebody else is doing or not doing, if they're honoring the rules, not honoring the rules. It's about what are you doing? What are you doing to be that steward to our planet? So maybe it's a good day to go outside, to connect with our planet, to do some new moon rituals, to ask for guidance and assistance. Call on the wisdom of your soul and say, look, I need some help. Show me what it is I need to do to be a better steward in moving forward for this earth, for this new earth, for moving forward into this new life that is being created and birthed. What is your role to create that new earth? That is what's playing out. But it doesn't mean without personal responsibility and without work. We are hugely divinely supported and hugely protected. And I am here to help you and to guide you. There is a class that we're going to be doing for those of you who might be overwhelmed with the oversensitivity coming March. We're targeting for May 1st on self-care for the empath. It's a 5-week class on helping you cope with stuff during times of crisis. I am offering virtual sessions, one-on-one virtual sessions. We also have happening in our Facebook group. We have Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We're doing Facebook Lives to go into what spiritual medicine is offered for the day and some meditations to help us start the day and to move forward in a better, more grounded, structured way so we can focus on our stuff and move forward. And we're looking to possibly create a Zoom group, support group if you want to call it, where it's coaching or spiritual guidance and assistance and helping will be 5 days a week at a very nominal rate. So stay tuned for that information. But in the meantime, please put your comments below and let me know if any of what I'm saying is making sense to you and what it is that you're going to do today to be a better steward of the planet, to honor the system, to honor this path and journey that your soul chose to move in this lifetime. And I leave you with the blessings of Spirit. Have a great day.